Hello, Abnormal Family. Good to see you all again. Well, I got another one for you, but first I'd like to ask you before this video starts, please reach down and smash the like button. That helps a whole lot, and if you're not subscribed, I would like to personally invite you to subscribe, ring the bell, and select all to get all of our latest uploads. Alright guys, let's get into this one. This happened December 5th of 2019. I am from Scotland and was studying forestry at the time. The course took me to many wooded areas of the forest. I was in dense pine and spruce forest planted for timber production in the heart of Dumfries, the Galloway. It was mid-October and around 3 p.m. when I entered the tree line. As high as the sun was at this time, a little light managed to reach through to the forest floor, which was littered with branches and needles. Hardly any vegetation grew on the ground. There were only sporadic patches of moss. It was gradually getting darker as I continued to make my way deeper into the woods. I decided to find a spot to sit down in a patch of light to have a drink of water and a small snack. Around 25 minutes had passed until I finally found a small clearing around 4 meters in diameter with high stumps near the center of it. There were also a few brushy pine saplings growing opposite of the stump on the edge of the clearing. I sat down and began to relax and take a bottle of water and a sandwich out from my rucksack. I was sitting there for about 5 minutes, taking my time to eat and drink, just admiring the sun shining down on me and the sound of the wind blowing through the trees. That was when I heard the loud thumping on the forest floor, like someone was throwing a very large rocks forcefully down onto the ground. The sounds happened about every 4 or 5 seconds and seemed to only be about 15 meters outside of the clearing, but they were getting closer with every thump. I thought it must have been a massive stag clomping around, but it didn't sound like the methodical footfalls of the deer or any animal I knew of for that matter. Another distinct noise came into the hearing, like a very large and very heavy object being dragged along the ground. I stopped eating to listen more carefully, internally wondering just what sort of animal decided to come and join me. At this point, I was honestly more curious than afraid. It reached each of the clearings and was rustling its way through the saplings when its arm, then entire front half of its grotesque body, came into view. I sat there on the stump, frozen in place like a statue, not moving, just breathing slowly and staring wide-eyed at this obscene creature. I took it all at once. It had an overall vaguely human shape. The skin was ragged and molted and pale yellow, like milk left to curdle out in the sun for days. Small patches of darker skin, gray or off-white, was on its neck. Every single bone looked to be thin, stretched and brittle underneath the skin, yet the joints of its fingers, elbows, and wrists were swollen, almost comically large. And it was so nasty looking. And with every movement it acted like these heavy limbs were weighing it down. Its hideous face is seared into my mind. The eyes were large and bulbous, like that of an insect, protruding outward, covering the top half of its head, and it was the same sort of shape as the molted patches of the skin. They had no iris or pupil that I could see. It just seemed to be filled with an unmoving liquid, almost like the entire eye was a cataract and bulged slightly outward. A putrid-looking deep and vertical wound or orifice where the lower half of its face, strips of its bloody flesh, swayed as it moved, into slimy blunted tongue, hung limp and foul, about 30 centimeters in length from between the torn skin directly beneath the eyes. This thing's tongue was dripping with saliva. Ragged exhales and the hoarse gargling inhales was that you could hear during this. No birds and no wind. Deathly calm. Its head was wider and more stout-looking than a human, connected to a pair of narrow shoulders by seemingly no neck. The rest of its body was mundane compared to the head and face. Elongated and emaciated, abnormally long fingers and toes, but the limbs were in moderate proportion to a man of over 6 foot. I'd say, but bent and twisted in twitchy manner that would rip muscles and tendons in a normal person, like an offbeat rhythm of a lizard moving in increments. It didn't move at me directly, though. It was kind of facing in my direction. Around half a minute passed, and it appeared to be cautious while I sat on the stump for what seemed like an eternity. Petrified, eventually, however, the creature turned around, and its bones cracking and pain rattling moan, emanating in a raspy tone from it. The noise reverberated in the silent woods, and lasted for nearly a full minute, it seemed. During that encounter I had made my peace. I honestly believed that my life would be at the mercy of this thing, and that no one would ever find me. Grabbing my bag, I shot up and I dashed back into the forest in the opposite direction of where I saw it. The sun hadn't completely gone down, so I made my way well enough. I didn't stumble or lose my footing, but I was pretty much without a sense of where I was, no identifying landmarks beside the clearing. Thankfully, after a few minutes of panicking jogging, I found the dirt road used by the forestry vehicles, which had a clear, pale gray sky at the end. I bolted toward it and wasn't that far from the next exit, thankfully. It only took me about 3 minutes. I followed the track out of the forest and eventually connected to the main road. Finally knowing where I was, not far from the public entrance where I left my car, 10 minutes and I was inside my little hatchback, with the radio blasting and high beams on and the doors locked and shaking and taking deep breaths. I've never experienced anything like that. Nothing paranormal or unnatural in my life. I've hunted all my life, been in the woods at all hours and all times, and have never seen anything like this. It bothers me terribly to this day. How many times has this thing watched me and I never known it? How many times have I been out sitting there at the tree, taking a nap sometimes after a small little snack? How close has this thing been to me? Was this the day that it decided to show itself to me because I was not going to go home? What do you think, guys? Do you believe that this thing decided to take him that day, or do you think it just did not wind him by where he was setting? He was probably downwind of the creature, and it probably never even knew he was there, or do you guys believe that it knew he was there? You know, there's a lot of weird things out there other than Bigfoot, werewolf, and these other known cryptids. I've actually seen them myself. One being a reptilian-looking creature that stood over 7 foot tall. It walks with a hunched back. It's able to laugh, but it also knows what a gun is. So I believe there are other things down there. Beasts of the field may not just be werewolves and Bigfoots. I don't believe it's limited to just that. As Sarah and I have seen creatures in the trees that have looked like gargoyles, and we've seen things that we don't even know what they are. So I know there's other things out there, guys. So do you think this kid was on the menu in this video? Or do you think it simply just did not smell him and was just walking through? Let me know what you think, guys, and please don't forget to smash that like button. And until next time, keep your head on a swivel, and don't be something's dinner.